Good day, everybody. This is the Ecclesiarch here, back with some more WARPFORGE, and more specifically, the next episode of FORGECAST. And we have our first special episode today because I'm here not only with BJ's the Brave, as always, but I also got a special guest. And say hi to Papa Beard, which I think the name suits him a lot because he's got that
Yeah,
majestic beard. So
we can
say
see
hi,
why they
boys.
call you Papa Beard for sure. Welcome, buddy.
I was not very creative. Thank you for having me, guys.
Pleasure, man. Good to have you. Good to have you. Storming the ladder this season. It's I can't wait to get into it. Talking about all sorts of Warpforge meta.
Me too, me too. I really love the game. Just started last season, so it's pretty new for me. But I'm a big Warhammer fan, so I'm enjoying the game very much. It's a quite fun game, to be honest.
Mm.
Yeah, it is. I would agree, and I would say I would like to mention it right at the start of the video that I indeed think that this is one of the best patches that we've had. Not one of the best, but the best. Because like
Yeah.
right now, even though there are some decks that are pretty strong, there almost everything is playable. Like if you ask me,
Sounds
like
good.
almost everything. There's still Sylar and stuff like that. Well, I mean, most of the things are playable. Let's say all factions are playable, right? But we'll
All
get into that
factions,
in more
yeah.
detail in a second. So, BJ, why don't you kick us off with the
Yeah,
first...
yeah. Well, I was thinking. I'm curious what everybody's been playing, but I thought obviously as we've got Papa on as a guest this week, we might just start with you. Just give us a little bit about kind of like who you are, Papa. Like a bit about your gaming history, card game, how you got into the game, and what you've been playing really, and kind of how your season's gone.
So I've been starting playing card games since Hearthstone came out in the beta. Playing that and then hit the legendary a couple of times, once even top 50.
Nice.
Then also played Shadowverse a lot and a bunch of other card games. I don't want to get too much into that. And then I was playing Warhammer Comet cards, and I'm there in one of the best clans in the world. It's Unforgiven. It's Chaos Clan. And so I was looking, but I got bored really quick, and it's kind of a wave catcher game, if you know what I mean. Like you have to spend money to have a competitive deck or play for a really long time and grind. And so I started with Horus Heresy, which I didn't like that much. It just didn't catch me. So then I saw a YouTube video because I was watching some random Warhammer video, and somebody recommended WARPFORGE in there. So I kept looking into that game, and it catch me from the very start because I thought it's very creative that the wallet is a static unit on the board which can always attack, and also that is ranged and melee attack. Like if you play Warhammer, you know there's always a melee, a ranged, and a psychic turn. So this is what I like about the Warhammer Combat cards too, because every unit has like three major stats. That's health, then the attacks of the melee, ranged, or psychic, and then their how you say that, the keywords. There are a lot of keywords in Warhammer Combat cards. So I like that idea a lot. And what got me the most was a pretty basic thing, because in Warhammer Combat cards, if you attack everything except psychic, psychic is like a blizzard, like electric charge, and if every ranged unit attacks like the heavy bolter sound of the Ultramarines, which is kind of boring. Elder wouldn't use a heavy bolter. So what I loved about the game in first is that every ranged unit attacks the ranged way that they would do in the real
It's
universe.
in theme, isn't it? Everything's
Yeah.
themed. Yeah,
Everything's
yeah.
themed, and the graphical effects, and also that the units are like all known units, and also put in the game, and quite famous units are also quite big and strong in this game. And it catch me from the very start. But I was starting mid of last season, which was horrible because we all remember the Gospel meta, which was horrible to play,
Oh
but
my
it was
God.
it was so broken that because of my long years of experience in card games, I realized I shouldn't start to play that deck because this will get nerfed 100%.
Clever.
And I think even Makari didn't get nerfed enough. I talk about BJ. Makari should be a 2-mana card. It's not. It shouldn't be a 1-mana card because 1-mana cards are very, very strong in card games, and they should balance that out more. I think Makari should be a 2-mana card. Everything else is fine. Thankfully, nerfed Gazgul. They thankfully didn't give the Neurotroph the 2 health buff on the hero talent, which they, if you guys saw it, I was like, I was looking forward to playing Neurotroph this season, and then I started, this ability doesn't give 2 health, what the hell happened? I'm looking at the patch notes, and they just took it out. They never wrote it. It was so funny. And so
best decision they ever made, though.
Best decision that I ever made. And I reached rank 47 last season with Marniers. And so I was playing Ultramarines a lot. And I thought that Uriel got 1 card extra. And that also now that he's, because the thing he was lacking was card draw. The card draw cards were, the Ultramarines were the worst in my opinion, because orcs at least get melee attack plus, and no, the Tyrannies also got it this season that they draw with health. Every unit they draw it up. But I thought it's a really strong buff. 2 cards for 2 mana is amazing in a card game. Everybody who plays card games for a long time knows that. So I tried him out and it worked out really well, but I kept changing the deck a lot because there was no really net guide for it, and also when I looked something up, it didn't really work out. So I figured out myself, I'm gonna do an own deck. And over like 400 or 500 games, I finally got the deck the way it works and should be. It has still some hard matchups, but it's never a matchup that you have no chance in winning. Like Emotech, for example, is a very bad matchup. In a stream with BJ yesterday, we beat Emotech quite easily.
I haven't lost yet to Emotech with that deck. I don't know why. I know it's the worst matchup, but for some reason I'm winning it.
It is the worst. It is really the worst. And Galen is also a very bad match, and there are a lot of Galens. And funny, there's some Sapphire Blade too, which I never seen last season or this season, but there I ran into some of that. And so I climbed to rank 1 in beginning of the season already, but then it dropped 20 ranks because Emotech was the flavor of the day, I guess. And I refined the deck around putting in Chaplains and Judicators instead of Antonius, Kronos, and the Dreadnoughts I had in. And it worked amazingly. It still works great. And I saw what was fun. I see that a lot of people watch actually BJ's videos, because today I ran the first time in a couple of Ultramarines who run in Chaplain now.
Oh yeah, everybody. I'm running into our deck like left, right, and center. Your deck. I'm running into it left, right, and center now. It's like everyone's. But that's always the way. It's one of those things where like you get excited, and when you're a creator, you make these decks, but there's a part of you that thinks, I don't want to release this video because I'm really enjoying playing this deck. And as soon as I release it, everybody else is gonna play. And actually, you can get quite tactical. I know I won't mention names, but certain quite big content creators, I kind of know that one of the things that they do is when they release a deck guide, the next deck they work on is one that kind of counters that, because they know everybody's gonna kind of run that deck. But yeah, no, it's a good deck. It's a very good deck, and like you say, even when you lose with that Uriel deck, it's you always feel like you could have done something. And I'm a bit annoyed at myself for putting it in tier 3 because I was chatting to Ecclesiarch about the meta, and you kind of convinced me to put it in 3 instead of 2, and I was like, I'm sure Uriel aggro is better than that this season, and I wish I'd stuck to it, because I think I think Uriel aggro right now is like top of tier 2. That's where I would put it. You could make an argument.
Tier 1. I actually put
it in tier 1. Yeah. I think it's when you play like your Gruk aggro deck, or when you play Gaz aggro, it just feels easy. It almost feels a bit like mine. I don't feel like that with Uriel. I feel like Uriel has still got like skill and decision trees, and you've still got to do things right and properly. And that for me is like, and I also feel like Galen tempo's a lot like that. Like that for me is a sign of a strong deck that played well. Is, yeah, you're going to climb, but that's where, for me, that's where I kind of see that kind of top tier 2. The tier 1 is where things are broken, you know, like Gazgul last season or Ultramarines the season before, you know, that's where I'm just like, it's just point and click. I've got a podcast on, I'm barely looking at the screen and I'm still winning. It's like, that's the tier 1 stuff for me.
Yeah, right now there is no point and click. There are some things that obviously are better, but yeah, there's nothing that when you play against it, you're like, okay, I cannot win this. Yeah, it doesn't happen that much because, yeah, sure, Abaddon is pretty powerful right now, mostly because the Venom Crawler thingy has gone a little bit out of control. But in general, he's not like in a sense that, oh, I cannot beat him. You can beat him, of course. You just need to aggro enough to beat him. That's the thing. But yeah, BJ, when it comes to certain decks, there's more brains involved, you could say. Orcs, aggro orcs usually do not need a lot of decision making. All you need to know is that you hard mulligan for Green Horde and Makari,
Yeah.
no matter
Yeah.
what. No, there's like that's the main thing. Then you just
Yeah.
drop a good Green Horde and you just go face. That's what it is. The only
Yeah.
thing you might want to think about as orcs, the only two things as aggro is if you're playing against the Eldar, how to play around the Elder Storm, and the second is how to maybe set up a good Unbridled Carnage. That's all. But when it comes
Yeah.
to some other decks, you need to think a lot. Like, that's actually the primary reason why a lot of Emotechs feel like very easy, but once you play against somebody who actually knows how to play it, it feels like
Yeah.
facing a wall. That's like, that used to be the case in the season 1, because I built the Emotech video that I got out right now. I think on the deck building site that they have, it has like over 5,000 views or something, because I built it very early, so there were not really a lot of guys, so a lot of people took that deck, and
Yeah.
it's still the same deck that I built like months ago.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the deck is really good, but a lot of people were using it in a very wrong way. So when you would like see an Emotech on the ladder, you felt like, okay, yeah, this is not too much. But the thing is, if somebody does know how to use it well, it becomes a little difficult, because there are some very important decisions with Emotech, like when do you want to attack with your Lich Guard or not, because leaving Lich Guard at 1 HP is sometimes better, because that way you set up a resurrection later on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of decision making when it comes to warlords like that, especially like the control warlords. Actually, that's my favorite warlord, but the only reason, I'll be honest, that I'm not playing Emotech right now is that the games take too long, and in terms of point game efficiency, it's not efficient, because if you take 15 minutes for a game, yeah, sure, it's fun, but you're gonna take half a day to get some points, and even then you might not get it. It reminds me of something in Horus Heresy Legions. One of the best ways to climb has always been Angron, not because he's like always super OP, but it's because his games finish in like 2-3 minutes. Like attack, you lose or you win, but you play like 10 Angron games when you would play like 3 Magnus games. So
Yeah, it's like
the
Hunter in Hearthstone, or it's there's always been that like aggro deck that just kind of you can play 3 games for the price of 1. Although you guys are both now in the top 10, that's for me where, especially because of the ELO system, like that's for me where maybe playing an Imotech, if you're confident that that's the better deck, maybe that's where it's worth it, because the fact that when you lose a game, you lose so many points. It might actually be worth saying, well, I'm at the top of the mountain now, I'm going to use the deck that's going to give me the best win rate, if you believe Imotech would do that. Although I don't think Imotech's very well positioned in the meta right now, to be honest.
I would say he's well positioned, but not very well positioned, because the main reason there being there's a lot of Abaddon, and when there's a lot of Abaddon, you have no answer for camouflage. That's one. And when you play against the Uriel deck, if they swarm with their Impulsor, it becomes very hard to stop. Even though, like, funny enough, my Emotech deck that I kind of built like long ago and kind of popularized it, it was an anti Ultramarine deck, but it was an anti Kalgar and Tigurius deck. It was not an anti Uriel deck. It was meant to endure the insane amount of burst that they had. Like, BJ, that was our first Forge Clash, even Kalgar versus Emotech, and it was built to
bloody
survive.
hard.
And the thing was that Kalgar at the end ran out of resources if he was not able to finish you off. But against Uriel, which is very quick and like very fast, it becomes a little difficult. He's okay, he's still good, but not that reliable, considering like 15 out of 20 games is Abaddon. So there you go.
I think he's still better. I think he's still better than Uriel. I think it's got a favorable matchup against Uriel though. But I mean, I played Badulko, who's like the top Necron player right now. He's like 3rd on ladder, 4th on ladder or something. I played him earlier with my Galen deck and won. And it's just it's good at preying on Ultramarines, I think, but it's not very good into Swarmlord. It's not very good into Abaddon. It's not very good into Eldar.
Yeah, Swarmlord destroys it. Swarmlord absolutely annihilates it.
Oh yeah.
Because ever since the change to the Psychomancers, it's become almost impossible to stop a Swarmlord with Emotech. They just blow you up with their burst. But yeah, against the Ultramarines, as I said, the deck was built to be an anti-Ultramarine. So even against Uriel, at the end of the day, you have a favorable matchup. It's not as good versus him as it was versus Kalgar, but let's just say you're gonna win more than you're gonna lose.
So, Papa, you've exclusively been playing Uriel, have you, this season? So, well, since you played Kalgar, you said a bit at the start, and then you went over to Uriel.
In the start, yeah, I tried. No, I didn't play Calgar at all this season. I wanted to play Neurotrope, and then I wanted to play Abaddon because the thing about Chaos was that the Venom Crawler was, in my opinion, one of the best 6-drops in the whole game, and definitely the best 6-drop of Black Legion. And they buffed it with 1 armor for 6 health unit, which
For some reason.
I talked with BJ about it yesterday. I don't know why, from all the cards that Chaos has, why they buffed this card. Because this was the only card, not the only card, but one of the cards who didn't need it to change. It's 6 mana with a 6 health, 6 attack body, and it reduces mana cost by 1 from all regions, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And they gave it 1 armor, so you can only remove it with stratagems, not with attacks anymore. It's very hard because I think like 5 health and 6 health is a big difference in this game. If you guys agree with me. It is a really big difference, and now that he has 1 armor, you need hard removal to remove him. This is why I think works.
Plus, don't forget you get like the camouflage on it very easily.
This is the next. This is the next turn. This is the next thing. If he can get the camouflage on him, if he has the dark pack, which he can choose from, which costs 0 mana with the Venom Crawler. So you can, if you do it before, you can basically play it on turn 6. You have to remove him with units, but this becomes like impossible because he has then 8 health and 1 armor, and this is one of the biggest units in the game.
Yeah.
Like on turn 6 you can play, if not the biggest and hardest to remove, except maybe like Carnifex that you buffed like crazy before with some things, but like.
Well, they've got the Screamer Killer, haven't they? The Tyranids have got the Screamer Killer, which is 6 health and has armor. But obviously and it can be given. Well, it can't be given health. It can't be given health and stealth for 0 mana, can it? That's for sure. So
that's true, but the Tyranids are another story, I think, because we will talk about it later, maybe. Because in my opinion, we talked about the game is in a really good state. I completely agree, except Swarmlord. The OTK potential of Swarmlord is too big, especially with Broadlord, which is a stealth unit, so you cannot really remove it except the orcs. And it becomes a problem if you cannot play around something's always very bad for a card game. I mean, you have to have some conditions to do it, but it's not very hard. You just have to drop a Broadlord and have Ravenous Hunger in your hand.
And you win.
And you win. And maybe 1 Adrenaline Surge just for being safe.
Just for lulz.
That's 29 damage. So this is not very healthy for the game. I think it's something like that.
Well, as someone who has played Horus Heresy Legions before this game, I'm going to say that most probably we're going to get anti-stealth and silencing, as in jamming cards.
Come on, Tau Empire.
Yeah, I think they're going to, down the line, they're going to give everybody...
Seek the missiles, baby. Prioritize stealth targets.
Because like stealth, not stealth, silence is a very boring mechanic in card games, I think.
Well, it is. I do agree. Though in Horus Heresy Legions, I think it suited a very good purpose of shutting down some very, let's say, questionable cards. Like, for example, Mortarion used to have the Death Shrouds, the 8 energy 8/8, but the ability was when this unit is destroyed, it just resurrects. So the only way you could stop it was to either mind control, which I think only 2 factions have, and then you had to jam it. So out of like, when there's like 38 factions, only 2 factions being able to stop it was kind of questionable. But yeah, it's kind of boring. I agree. It's boring, but I guess at some point it might be necessary. As for the Venom Crawler, like, I still maintain that armor 1 should have gone on the Terminator. Now, like, that's because at least you would have a reason to run the Terminator. I've had today I actually released a video on some suggestions on how some cards could change. Some of them were, in my opinion, really good. Some of them caused some debates. But one thing that I had some people tell me was that Terminator is already a really good card. No, it's not. like, why would you ever run the Terminator when you can run the Venom Crawler? It's like
Well, okay. Let me answer that. Let me answer that question.
Go ahead.
There is a good reason for it, and I think the one thing that was missing from your video, because I thought there was some really good suggestions in there.
Black Crusade.
I'm one crazy one, but the Avatar was a bit crazy. It just comes on and kills everything.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I think you didn't address was the rarity of cards. And you have to think from EG's point of view, right? They're selling a collector's card game, and so the best like basic card in the game to me is like the Carnifex. Yeah, it's a basic card, it's a beginner card, you get it right at the start. I think it's unbelievable. It's in meta decks, right? Whereas the Venom Crawler is an epic card. It's an epic card, right? Most people haven't got that card for a good while, and they certainly haven't got 2 copies. Whereas the Terminator they have, and that's the thing. That's the reason why they can't make the Terminator like.
I got a counter argument to that, BJ. I got a counter argument. Let me tell you, Necrons. You got legendary the Tombstalker or whatever it's called. The thingy that's 3 energy and goes into stealth, which is almost unplayable. And you have the common card called Triarch Praetorian. Common. 3 energy, 3/3/4 Vanguard. So, yeah, kinda no, yeah.
They all have one, don't they? They all have 1 or 2. Like, they've got the Praetorian, the Tyranids have got the Carnifex. I think it's okay, but I do think it's a thing you've got to think about, like, when you're balancing, and because ultimately we sort of want the epics to be better cards, right, than the basic cards. Otherwise, like, what's the point in having a collection? What's the point in, like, you've got nothing to aim for? If all the basic cards are the best, what's the point in getting the legendaries and the epics?
That's basically in every card game like that. In Horse also was like that. Not every legendary was the best card. Sometimes common cards or rare cards were the best. It's the same in this game. I think it's very unfair to balance around rarity. It's just how hard you can get this card. But I have to also make a counter argument to that, because I started playing Chaos. Was my first faction in Abaddon to play, and I think I had my first Venom Crawler after like 4 hours, or not even 4 hours, very early. And then I had both copies like in 2 or 3 days. It's very easy in this game to achieve cards, because I think you, without any purchases with real money, you can get like 2 legendary wild cards in your mastery, in your faction mastery tree.
Yeah,
the Forge.
Not the Forge, the other
the
one,
campaign. Yeah,
the campaign, exactly. So it's 2 legendaries and I think 2 wild cards epics, and you get a lot of epics that you're gonna use. And the Venom Crawler is not one of them in the Chaos campaign, I know that, but like, people get a lot of epic and legendaries for free in this game, without spending any money.
Did you do any of the premium campaigns?
I have an Ultramarine premium campaign, and I bought the Sicarius pack because it was like 20 euros for 15 packs, and an Avatar, which I'm a little bitch for Avatars, so like, especially Sicarius. Sicarius is great, and yeah, this is what I want to talk about Sicarius too, because I know how to change it to make him viable.
I guess we've got in it early, and so like you imagine a year from now, if you start Ultramarines, there's going to be a lot more epics probably to choose from in your wildcards. Whereas right now we've got I've pretty much got the whole set. I think now. Same. I think I'm missing a few legendaries, but
I'm playing since 1 month, and I think I'm missing all the Elder cards. This is why I have an Elder campaign going on right now. Imagine that, and I'm never in my life going to play Elder. So.
Actually, I also want to hear how you would change Sicarius. Cause today I also had a possible change in my video. I want to see how similar our changes are. That will be interesting to see.
You want me to tell you right now?
Maybe, go for it.
You said like give him taunt. If you give him taunt, I think it's a big problem. I think because he's a big body by himself, and it will be better than every other big taunt in the game, and it's the kind of win more or lose card. What he could do to be useful, because he gets immunity in your turn anyway, is give another unit taunt, any other unit
as a rally,
and buff his health for 3, like the Tyranids. Not heal it for 3, but give it 3 health and taunt.
What about the greatest deeds?
The greatest deeds, the ability, I will completely take it out.
Okay, so
Keep the immunity on your turn, but take the greatest deeds out, because if you survives one turn, you win the game anyway. I don't know which reason you have to give him a talent. I think he's a 9 mana card. So
He's 9 mana,
9
yeah.
mana in this game is so late. It rarely goes to 9 mana.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was actually saying about what I had with the avatar change. The avatar change for me was a little bit crazy, but I said, like, why not give him a rally?
I'm gonna be honest, I liked it.
I like
Kill everything. I like the idea, really.
I like it too. It reminds me of Deathwing from Hearthstone. Instead of like just discarding your hand, you damage yourself. The thing that people don't understand, because I had a lot of very negative comments on the video. I had very positive comments on it, but on the Reddit it was like very negative. People saying might as well give him win the game. It's not exactly like that, because it's 9 energy. By the time you play that, the game is already having you at like 10 health at least. So if an enemy has, let's say, for example, Rock Invasion on and you drop Avatar, you're essentially taking 8 damage on the face. You're done. It's over. So yeah, those kind of things are, people need to understand that, especially in a game where warlords, as you mentioned, are by default participating in combat by having attack. It's a very quick-paced game. That's why we never really get to play late game cards in most cases. Yeah, BJ?
Okay, well let's entertain the thing. So you talked about Deathwing in Hearthstone. So here's the difference for me, right? So Deathwing in Hearthstone, first of all, is 10 energy, not 9. And the second thing is it discards your hand, right? Now in WARPFORGE, and I think the more I play the game, the more I'm getting more and more sure they need to get rid of overtime. I really think overtime is. I totally get why they're doing it. Yeah. But I think it's really detrimental long term to the game.
Especially to the guy who has the defensive card in hand and gets 1 extra card too. I think he's the first who gets overtime too.
One of the fundamental, like, root cause things that I think the game needs to address is that there's very little control, like deck building opportunities in this game. Because your warlord can attack every turn. We've talked about this before, Ecclesiarch, that you can never clear the board. In Hearthstone, you clear the board, there's nothing coming back at you. In this game, you clear the board, you've got Gazgul sitting across the board, plays Infinite Macarian, slaps a proper Killion and hits you for 10. It's like, I thought I was the control player. So this is a good example. Like, if you think about Deathwing would clear the board, but it would remove your hand, and it's the kind of card that says, it's like a high risk, high reward game finisher, but if you don't finish it, you're pretty screwed because you now don't have any resources. Whereas in WARPFORGE, you're like, well, I've still got my Warlord. Oh, and I'm drawing 2 cards a turn, and I get my Warlord talent. So it's like, even if it had Deathwing's ability, you'd still end up with half a hand. So I really think it's raising a couple of points here. One is that overtime needs to go. Yeah, and we need to build more control. This game needs more control tools. The control decks right now in this game are what I would call mid-range decks. Someone mentioned earlier Zephyrblade. I actually think there's probably a mid-range Zephyrblade deck right now that probably does very well. It will do really well against Uriel, and it will do really well against Galen if you build it right, because it's kind of what Swarmlord does. Swarmlord is okay. Everybody moans about the finisher, and of course it's busted and broken. But if you go and watch the Shimatsu, and no one's played more Swarmlord than Shimatsu, he says, look, most of the games we don't win with the combo. We win because we control the board. We have bigger bodies that, per point of energy, they have the biggest bodies. This was before Venom Crawler got armor. and basically, Swarmlord just dominates the board. That is what a mid-range deck does, right? It says to a Uriel, it says to a Galen, okay, great, you're coming on doing all your little fancy codex tricks with your little 2-3 health bodies. Okay, here's a 5 body, here's a 6 body. I'm going to trade 2 for 1. And that's how it controls the board. And I think that's kind of like the only kind of control mechanism. So you imagine a Zephyr Blade right now, where maybe you run the what's it called, the heal spell that camouflages as well, so you can't hit me with your death from above, and you can't hit me with your Wailing Dooms and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so you run that. I mean, you run those and you run bigger bodies, and that's kind of like how control works. And even as somebody who, the only exceptions are, I would say, Imatech is close to a proper control deck, and Grook can do it because it's got Will of Gork basically, but even Grook control, you know, like if I've played that deck a lot, and often you end up playing it like more like a mid-range. You still play tempo, you still play that. It's just you've got hard removal units. It's not like a classic control deck, is it? In other games where you sort of sit back and kind of draw cards, you know, just keep drawing and just keep reacting. This game doesn't work like that. What do you think?
Izzy, you want to go first?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah, it's definitely a thing that you're saying. Even as somebody who played a lot of Emotech, well, a lot by my standards is not really a lot, because maximum games I got on a Warlord is, I think, 180 wins on Grook. That maybe I have like over 200 games on him. Not too much, but I've played over 100 games with Emotech, so I think I got at least a normal idea on it. And the thing with that is, even that is not a pure control deck, because the highest cost thing on a good Emotech deck, I mean a good one, you have Tomb World. No, not Vargard Oberon. You don't run Vargard Oberon if you want a competitive Emotech, because it comes in too late. Once again, 9 energy cost card that can be neglected by the enemy. It's a good card, but it's not that competitive. You would prefer
if it wasn't for orcs, it wouldn't be bad.
Maybe, but you know what I found? I used to like the idea of Oberon, for example. When there was an Ultramarine meta, you would drop Oberon. Kalgar was like, okay, sure, buddy, just drop double Death from Above for 10 damage, you're dead. Then on the next meta, you're like, drop Oberon, and in that case, Gaskell is like, okay, sure, buddy, he does no mocking about, it's gone. Then right now, if you drop Vargard Oberon, then Abaddon is gonna be like, well, sure, bro, but right now I already have a full board with a camouflage slapped on it, so it usually doesn't.
I've got a unit that's bigger than him.
Yeah, so like... basically, essentially, the biggest unit I run, I used to run a copy of Necron Lord on the original Emotech deck, and even that was too slow. So right now, the biggest card I have in terms of a unit is the Hexmark Destroyer, 6 energy, and after that, that's like Tomb World. The whole idea is, okay, I drop a unit, I drop a unit, I drop a unit, and Tomb World, and I win. Because even that is a mid-range deck in a sense. More control, because if it was a pure Emotech control, you know how it would be? You play like the whatchamacallit, like the 5 energy card that Implacable Conqueror, and then you drop a Monolith or something like that, but no, it's not viable. I could make a deck that revolves around that by doing Divination of Menhir and then playing that on like energy turn 3, and wow, but still nothing.
This would be an interesting conversation as to how would we make what changes how do we make control decks in this game? Like, what needs to change to make control decks?
You could build a control deck, but it wouldn't last in the top 50 meta. It's just too slow. And also the thing is about in the beginning you don't have not many fractions have card draw, which is kind of weird for a card game. But I think only Ultramarines, Orcs, and the Tyranids have really card draw. I think Elder and Necrons especially don't have any card draw. So if you have a 10 mana obelisk in your hand, like you mulligan and you get the obelisk, it's a dead card. And you start the game, so you have only 4 cards in your hand. One is a dead card.
Yeah,
it's a big problem. I think the meta has to change. I think you could do that by either tweaking smaller cards, but this will be too big of an accomplishment to request, or you could change the Warlord's health or how Warlords work in general. Maybe give them 1 attack, not 2. Something like that.
There needs to be something about.
Oh, I think BJ is lagging.
BJ is lagging.
Yeah, honestly, BJ has also recommended that to
a game can't last long enough.
Yeah, BJ, go on. Now you're back. You were lagging.
Oh, did I cut out? No, I was going to say you need some sort of help. Has anyone played Halo?
Halo, the eagle shooter?
Yeah, the first-person shooter. Halo.
Oh, the first-person shooter, yeah.
Yeah. So you know, like in Halo, you've got your health bar, but then you've also got like a shield, like a force field shield, and when you first get shot, you've got to negate the health, the force field before the health. I was thinking like, well, this is 40k, right? So force fields and stuff like that could be a mechanism they could introduce, because that could apply to units. Because the thing about armor is armor's like permanent, right? Because the Necron card got me thinking about this. You know, the Necron card that's 6 energy and it gives like 4 armor. And I was thinking about how to fix that card. And the problem with armor is that, same with the Venom Crawler, once it starts getting stupid amounts of armor on, it's always on. But I like the idea of like this extra damage you've got to do first, and that's where I thought a force field would be good. So it could be like you've got to remove the force field. Maybe you've got a force field 3. Once you've removed that, then it could be that you can only ping off 1 point of a force field, because there's have to be something that differentiates it from health.
We kind of have that right now.
What's that?
The shield the librarian gives, and from
yeah, it's an expansion of that.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe remove armor in general. Armor is, I think, it's a really big issue in the game. Armor is kind of. I don't like it.
I see. I do like it, but it can get out of control.
Shields. I like the shields from Vargo and from the Liberian, but I don't like the armor stuff. Like Carnifex. Did you ever have a situation where you picked melee or ranged over armor? No, right?
Oh no,
because it's so strong.
Very rare.
It's so strong, and there's also an argument to make if there will be not Demonic Pact as a 3 mana spell in Chaos. There's this card that gives your units 1 armor per pact. This will be broken.
Resilient, yeah.
Yeah, this is a disgusting card. If people, we're gonna talk later about cards that are underappreciated. I think this is one of those cards. This is disgusting. This on a what's the 5-drop of them? The Plague guy, which gives vulnerable 1.
Bring Harbinger of Decay.
Harbinger of Decay. This is disgusting. Even if you only get you give him 2 armor, it's already. I don't know. I don't like the idea of armor in this game, to be honest. It really annoys me. The Lich Guard is not that strong of a unit, but it takes like 5 units and 2 spells to remove him because of his 2 armor and 6 health.
The reason I like armor in the game, although I think it's a mechanism they've got to keep an eye on, and it could easily get out of control. The reason I like it is one of the first things I noticed playing this game, having played lots of other CCGs, is how almost impossible it is to get a unit to just stick to the board. Like, you play a unit, and then your opponent removes them. And then you play more units, and then your opponent removes them. And a unit in this game never survives a turn. And that's why flank is so important. Like, flank is like so meta, because you only get 1 turn. That's it. And that's why I like armor, because armor at least gives you the Carnifex has actually survived a turn.
The thing is, I think one of the main things, I like the formula of WARPFORGE a lot in terms of the range and melee and all of that. It's pretty cool, and flying as well, even though a lot of people don't like it. But there's like one thing, even in Horus Heresy Legions, we had the same situation. Units did not stick. But in WARPFORGE, they went a little crazy with the flanks. There's too many. Like, let me give you an example. Let's say you play against the Orcs, right?
Orcs are insane for flank.
They get Knob that gives everything flank. They get 2 Boomdakas Nazwagons. They get Warbikers. They get,
which is the only unit with charge in game.
Exactly. They get Squig Buggy. They get 2 No Walking Abouts, 2 Wills of Gork. Yeah. Honestly speaking, getting something to stick...
You forgot about Storm Sergeant. You forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, Storm Boy,
Veteran Storm Boy. And then the Storm Boys, if the Veteran Storm Boy's down, they get flank.
It's too much. Now, let's do the same formula for Necrons. They get double Tomb Blade, double Scorpec, double... the croissant-looking thing, whatever, Night Sight, and after that, he can just slam the Tomb World and everything comes back. And on top of that, he can do what Imhotep can do is like he will attack with the Scorpec, then resurrect it and attack again. So it's like there's like a lot of flanks in the game, and it's
and they all get played, right?
They all in every deck, of course,
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's fast. Like because that's the thing that I've been saying in like Horus Heresy Legions as well. Rally, flank, things that grant instant value are the things that are really good. Like I've had people say that, yeah, but like for example, current Avatar of Cain is so powerful. If it sticks, you win the game. I understand, but how's it gonna stick? Like, how are you expecting something like that to stick in a game where you're at 10 energy and most probably your health is down at like what, 10? And even if it's not down at 10, your opponent basically has like 10 ways of removing it despite its 2 armor.
And
Plus,
this is why when they're balancing cards, right? This is what they need to think about, because a good example is like the Wraith Knight. So the Wraith Knight's 10 energy, right? Now it's got this ability. It costs 3 stones, which is too expensive, by the way. But imagine it didn't cost 3 stones. Imagine it just got this ability, or maybe it costs 1 stone. But the ability is that it's invulnerable until the start of the next turn. Okay. Okay, so at least now I can answer your question of how are you going to be here next turn? Well, because I'm invulnerable.
I'm just gonna put
unless I'm dead.
I'm just gonna put something out there, BJ. That costs 10, right? That card.
Yeah.
Even if it was free and still got invulnerable, it's still a bad card. You know why? Because at 10 energy, if you play that, you're dead. I guarantee it, you're dead. Like,
It doesn't do anything.
but you can build. At least you can build around that. Like,
yeah, you could.
If I've built a tempo deck where I'm opposing you at every single energy point, and not attacking phase, maybe I'm not dead. Actually, maybe I'm not dead.
Let me give you a suggestion. Let me give you my opinion. How you could make control decks a little more viable. First of all, we need ramp in the game for sure. In Legions, we had at least a couple of sources of ramp. There was Asteroid Belt, 3 energy card. You play it, you permanently gain 1 energy, like the mana thing for Druids. You have Lord Malkial, a legendary card that when you drop it, every turn he can use his ability to grant you 1 energy for that specific turn. So there were some ways of ramping up your energy, that's one. And there were a lot of cards that reduced cost. Like, for example, there were a lot of card draws in that game. Like, for example, Abandoned Supplies, 2 energy, draw a card, reduce its cost by 2, which was then later nerfed to 1 because, it was a little bit too much. There were like a ton of cards like that. So there was a possibility to actually play some late game units. Like, for example, one of the things that you would have is there were units called the Desperate Defense builds. You would ramp. You were very weak during the game, and then for 10 energy, you played a card like this. Play 2 units from your deck and give them Vanguard. So
it's the same with like Druid in Hearthstone, or what was there was one in Shadowverse as well, wasn't there?
This is the issue, but the issue was that only Druid had it, and Ramp Druid and Druid in general was the bane of Hearthstone. It's always the best card, it's a great cards, and also the only classic with Ramp. If you include Ramp into WARPFORGE, you should give it to multiple factions, especially something like maybe even to certain warlords, like the Nemazor, for example. Nemazor is in a really bad spot right now. There's no reason to play Nemazor as long as Imhotep is even Oricon is stronger. The thing is, give him maybe ramp, and I also have an idea for Nemazor, but we will talk about it later. Because in the Warhammer lore, his bodyguard is Vargard Oberon. Oberon, and I have an idea for that, but we can talk about it later. But if you include ramp into this game, you should give it to multiple factions, or at least warlords.
Papa, you're absolutely right there. And what I'm gonna say is, in Horus Legions, the ramp cards were neutral. Everybody could include it in the deck. So like the Malkiel was a neutral legendary. The Asteroid Belts were a neutral legendary, not a legendary, sorry, common. So there were a lot of things. I remember there used to be, the tactical insight that you got for Ultramarines. That used to be a neutral card as well, called Drilling Sight, which was later changed from refilling 2 energy into gain 1 energy this turn. So there were like a lot of ramping potentials which were neutral, and you could play like so many different decks because of that. Like, you could have so many different iterations. Of course, even there, and I'm still gonna put it out there, in most cases the aggro was still the meta. In most aggro mid-range, but there were cases where control decks could do really, really well. And honestly speaking, it's not about only getting first place, right? Sure, I can tolerate aggro being the best and somebody getting War Master on it. I don't mind, but if I can play control in top 10 or top 50 even, I don't mind. It's good. That means it's already playable. I can have my fun, right? I don't need to like it's not like I want to be top 10 every season, right? Or top 1 every season. So at least if it's playable enough that you don't feel frustrated when you play against the top players there, it should be good. Of course.
I think you guys had a great point, and I'm absolutely agreeing with this. That the meta right now is like not totally aggro or absolutely not control. It's like every deck is the same curve, same cards. It's all mid-rangey. Some have a little bit more early drops, some a little bit more late drops, but it's kind of all the same.
Yeah, I agree. Flankers, same sort of curve. The only exceptions are things like Anvia. Like that's why I like Anvia, right? Because there's this little mini game of trying to get reclaim the stars off, and then having like different paces to your tempo. And to be honest, it's same with Orcs. Like Orcs is the other one. The one thing you can say about the Green Horde, it does create a unique thing in that you can have these waves of tempo. So it's like a combo thing. Like other decks can't do it. But I agree. I think what we're perhaps not addressing, like that's in my mind, is that I'm not just sort of saying, oh, the meta needs to shift because it's aggro. I'm saying like the fundamental design of the game is
give us
not
some control decks or reason to play them.
Yeah, they've got to address it at a fundamental design. Like in any other game, Hearthstone, Shadowverse, we could come up with a control deck. We could build in this game. The fundamental design doesn't work for it. And I think that's where they'd need to look at. You know, Ramp is one example where you could say introducing something like that. I'm thinking about a kind of something, maybe a less harsh version of Humanity's Shield. Can you imagine a stratagem that you play that says something like, you know, your Warlord can only receive 1 damage at a time, something until the next turn?
Definitely.
So if you know, do you know what I mean? Like that's the type of thing that I think you'd need to be able to build control decks. Something that just
survival.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One card that is like that is like Excellior said. The Necrons have this give 4 armor to all your units in the next turn, but it's kind of clumsy to play, and there's no really reason.
I'll tell you my favorite. I'll tell you a very good card. Very good. I think it's a very good design card for control in Orcs. Gretchen Mob. I think Gretchen Mob's really, really well designed because it can't be removed with hard removal. I mean, I know AoE is its weakness, right? But it doesn't get removed by hard removal. And the game's fundamentally designed in a way where generally you play 1 unit each. Like you might play 2, but it's very rare outside like the Green Horde that you get to go wide instantly. And that's why Gretchen Mob is so good, because he actually acts as a reliable speed bump.
I would say yes and no, and let me tell you why. You are absolutely right, BJ, absolutely. But here's the thing. As you know, right now, one of my most favorite decks is the Grok Aggro. Whenever I'm dropping Gretchen Mob, it's not to protect myself. It's to give you damage with Unbridled Carnage.
But that's even better though, because that's going in your aggro deck, right? And that's a different use for it. But it does work as a con. Did you play? You played Gwent, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
What was the shielded unit? They had something. It really makes me think of Gretchen Mob because
Defender, yeah, Defenders.
Yeah, Defenders, and the one I always forget, we've talked about this before, with the coins. Novigrad was it?
No, the
Syndicate, yeah. Their Defender, everyone else's Defender was like a big unit, you know, a big cave troll with like shields. Yeah. They just had 2 little scarabs and they had shields, and I was like, genius, because rather than it being how do I get rid of this Defender, there's 2 of them. And that's what Gretchen Mob does. That's what I like. I think that's a really well designed card, Gretchen Mob.
Yeah, Gretchen Mob is a cool card. I definitely like it. It's a different flavor for sure. The main thing, like, let me give you like my own perspective as well in this season. Like, I've been playing 3 Warlords mainly. This season, I decided that okay, I'm gonna climb, right? And I started with Abaddon. I was like maybe out of the top 50, like maybe not too much, but maybe 100 points below it. I started Abaddon. I started climbing. I got to like place 30. Then I switched to Uriel. Then I got to place 20. And then I decided, okay, now I'm gonna switch to Grook and see how my Grook deck works. And now I'm in 8 because that
Grook
deck
aggro.
has been it's insane. It's like, by the way, it's insanely slept on. I remember like when I first introduced that deck in like first season, there were a lot of people saying that okay, but that's trash. The real way to play the orc is the orc. No. They,
Really? Because if sorry to interrupt you,
yeah,
but like in my opinion, on some of other people, if it wouldn't be for Gaskell, Grook would be the strongest wallet, and I think Grook is tier 1. He's S tier.
Rook is absolutely tier 1. Yeah, and
Oh
he's
yeah,
right
for
now. I
sure.
think he's better
He's
than
got two
Gaskell for
decks.
sure. Yeah, and plus, oh yeah, that's a big deal here when you have two decks actually, and yeah, and right now he's better than Gaskell for sure. No, because Gaskell is still really good. Now the real thing is like if I were to compare, so I play Uriel as aggro mid, no, not mid range, even aggro I would say. Grok is like in hyper aggro, like maximum amount of like mana I have there is 4. I don't even have a 5 cost thing there. It's like insanity. And after that, you play Abaddon, which is my Abaddon is pretty much aggro. It's mid range combo ish. You got like a ton of win conditions, and you're still going face every turn. So the thing is, if I were not to play these, if somebody were told me, okay, Ecclesiarch, you cannot play these warlords, you're done, then the first thing that would come into my mind was, okay, then I'm gonna play Galen aggro. Oh, okay, you're not allowing me that? Okay, I'll play Varro aggro because I can shoot your face with my lasers, basically. And only after every like mid-range aggro options run out, I'm gonna say, okay, then I'm gonna play Emotech because in terms of control, it's the most durable. The thing that I would choose to not play is anything on actual late game. Like for example, I would not play late game Necrons, late game Focus with Implacable Conqueror, unless I'm just doing it for fun. I wouldn't play late game Eldar. Like, but I'm saying this in a different way. If I want to be competitive, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
If for
Sad, isn't
fun,
it?
for sure. Like, by the way, one important thing, I find it really funny that there's no Swarm Lords on the ladder. I guess that's because Tyranids, funny enough, even though Tyranids seem like brain dead with that bloodthirst and something.
There's a couple of them. Hatchetons.
There's a few in the top 10.
He's a 4th place Hatchetons. I played a couple of times against him.
Yeah.
So he's playing, right?
He's a Swarm will play 100% Swarm.
Yeah,
But you know what it is, don't you, Ecclesia?
But
You know, there's one important reason why we don't see as many Swarm Lords
it's
as
not
there should be.
Shumatsu, of course, but he's not here anymore. But that's one.
Well, that's one thing, but think about it from a collection. Think about where we were last season.
Yeah, Gaskell's and it scared them off, basically. Yeah, that could be.
No, Forge. Level 20 Forge.
Oh, you're right.
That's why that's the thing. Not everybody's got level 20 Forge, and it's a different deck if you don't have the digestion pool.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a completely different deck.
Plus, there's also a thing like Tyranids. Funny enough, I would say, even though they have brain dead combo that can one-shot you, they're not easy to play. You gotta make some very important decisions when playing that. If you play that faction
100%.
in a very stupid way, you're not gonna. It's not a face roll faction. If it gets lucky, it can be, but it's not in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
In general, I want to know your opinion, guys. Like, I think WARPFORGE is a pretty easy game. In general, it's pretty simple.
It's
Yeah,
easier.
It doesn't have complex mechanics like Shadowverse, for example,
Yeah.
or the depth
Yet.
of Runeterra. Like Runeterra has like what does it have? 1,000 cards, something like that.
Runeterra is very complex. Yeah.
Runeterra is a lot of decks, a lot of combinations, and the deck building is crazy. This is one game I cannot build my own deck. I have to look it up. But everybody does in Hearthstone too, but I don't play Hearthstone anymore. But WARPFORGE is, you have an easier overview in general, and it's quite simple to play, and it's not even that hard to master, I think. The thing is that the Broadlot thing, you have to play it right. I give you absolutely, I agree on that. But it's way too easy to pull off. It's not like complex, like let's say, do you guys remember from Hearthstone, Miracle Rogue?
Yes,
I do.
Miracle Rogue.
Where you have to get the gadgets on auction, and then know how to play your cards and
Proper
draw them,
combo deck, yeah.
a proper combo deck. It's not a proper combo deck. It's just, oh, I have Broadlord, I drop him, and hope I get Ravenous Hunt. If not, I play my other 15 Synapse units, which all give also effects if you use Synapse on them. I think the Synapse unit should be changed to not give any benefits, like the Xenotroph that gives a random nuke on units or your Warlord, and the which one gives okay, this is legendary, the Tyrant Prime, which gives the Swarm is not a thing at the moment, but it has potential. even with Gene Stealer, I think every Tyranids runs Gene Stealer. But what I mean with that, it's not that very hard to pull off, and this is a big problem. It's something else if you have like you have to play a proper way to build up your deck, your kill combo, and to be very specific about it. But this is like more. I play what I got, and if I got the Ravenous Hunger, then yeah,
that's what needs to change. Actually, they should just think about changing Ravenous Hunter because it's stupid. Like I think. Ravenous Hunter just needs to change. It needs to have something else. I'm not sure what, but the whole idea of being
BJ gave the easiest solution. It's only affecting troops. It's only affecting troops.
Yeah, don't affect. I think it just shouldn't affect the Lord. And I wouldn't even be against it getting rid of the +1 attack as well. Just say attack twice for troops. I think that's good enough.
I will be happy with not giving it to the Warlord because especially on Swarmlord, it's 8 damage
without any buffs. Yeah, it's already insane.
And what is 8 damage else in the game? It's an 8 mana card for Elder. It's 2 cards for Ultramarines. And it's proper killy, which
Oh, here's another funny one. Something nobody's talking about. If you have like Makari, proper killy, Makari and the bike, that's together 16 damage, potentially 17 if you draw it with Red Wa. The Orc reach is also pretty insane, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I agree. Orc is very strong. There is no, but I think people know that. I think Orc is the thing I run into most. It's Gazgul, or I even ran to Zagstruck today. I mean, the deck was weak.
I played 4 different Zagstruck players. I lost.
There's this one guy who's running Zagstruck. He actually beat me twice today. I beat him twice and he beat me twice. He's very dedicated actually, and he does pretty well.
But this is what I mean. Zagstruck is a bad designed hero champion. There's no reason to play him because his hero ability sucks after turn 4, and but the Orc cards are so strong. There is no reason not to play it. Like I think the point that we have in all this discussion we had till now is that Orcs have the only faction that can play aggro, mid-range, control, whatever you want. Has best removal, has one of the best reaches in the game, best OTK potential.
Everything.
It is, and Green Horde needs to be changed. Green Horde is crazy. Green Horde is
Orcs are so good that you could give Sylar to the Orcs, and he'd become an S tier warlord.
I agree. Can you imagine the ability from Sylar that heals your units and gives them 1 attack?
Oh yes, after the Green Horde.
Sorry, 1 attack? No, it's 2 attack now.
Yeah, I mean, like
they buffed it. Yeah. Right, 2 attack.
Yes.
Oh my god.
That's also not a good buff, by the way. I'm still pushing that they should just revert all these small buffs and just give Sylar the ability to choose his friggin' spells, and that's all. Like
or I think, give it, if you're gonna make it random, I think they should only have 2 rather than 3 spells.
It's a little
because if it's like 50-50, it's a bit more manageable. But like
Sylar needs
it's shit, isn't it?
I get the point. They don't want to make him like a Varro. But
why not? They're both psychers. He's a librarian gone wrong, isn't he? I don't know. It's not playable, is it?
Yeah. Speaking of which, like we've been talking a lot about like balance suggestions, and I'm very excited to actually hear what you guys think about some things that should be changed and what the game needs the most. And guys, we're gonna see that in part 2 on BJ's channel, so if you're interested in finding out what happens next, go right over to BJ's channel to find out.